It's Spoilerin time, the show where we take our hard work from cord killers figuring out how to watch stuff, and talk about it. This week, we'll talk about Star Trek Lower Decks. It's back, season 2, episode 1. We're going to talk about the first episode of What If from Marvel and the fourth episode of season 2 of Ted Lasso. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Bryce Castillo.
Hi, Tom Merritt. What are we going to start with?
Let's start with Ted Lasso, the Christmas special. Now, I have come to learn that Carol of the Bells, the Ted Lasso episode released this week, was added. Originally, they were only going to do 10 episodes to this season, but they added a couple of somewhat standalone. There's a couple of references here to things that are ongoing, like the standing up against Dubai Air situation. But for the most part, this episode stands alone. You don't have the psychologist character in it. Everything is happening on Christmas, and it's all fairly independent storylines that are self-contained within the evening, such that you could watch this during the Christmas time and not have to go watch the rest of the season to know what's going on. You got three great storylines, one with Roy and Keeley and Keeley's niece, one with Ted being rescued by Rebecca to go caroling, or not caroling, to go delivering presents. And another one with Higgins, who always invites players to come over to his house, usually gets one or two, pretty much ends up getting the whole team.
Let's, okay. My preface on this is I don't like holiday episodes.
Don't you? You hate Christmas. Got it.
I don't like holiday episodes. I always think they're schmaltzy. And, I did not realize, but it took you explaining it to kind of open my eyes that, yeah, this is not just a standalone episode, which I kind of was going to ding it for being kind of a lacking of consequence for not touching on those things.
Yeah.
But I think that it might also explain why they put it in August instead of December. Either the show was ready earlier than they thought, or maybe they couldn't fit it in during whatever December episodes are coming up.
I just think they wanted to make a Christmas episode. I think that was an idea they had. And so they made it, and they're like, yeah, if it comes out in August, it comes out in August. People can watch it in December. Like, we're not too worried about the schedule. That was the attitude I got from them. Is like, this wasn't a, gosh, we really wanted this to be out at Christmas, but oh well, things got in the way. It was like, no, we just wanted to make a Christmas episode, so we did. And then we worried about the details later. So you're Scrooge. You actively hate Christmas.
That's true. I think out of the three, I think I was kind of warmed. My heart grew 3 sizes because of the Higgins stuff.
Okay.
I thought the Ted stuff was nice, and the finding a dentist for this child's bad breath was cosmically a funny conceit. But for whatever reason, I like the Higgins thing, and maybe it's because I haven't seen my family at holidays a lot. I miss a lot of years. Some years I get to spend holidays with people. Some years I don't. COVID made that very difficult, and so I think that's maybe why I reacted the most to that. But I really liked how undersold almost that was. Like, Higgins says, well, sometimes we get 1 or 2 people, and then, oh my gosh, they keep piling in, and there's no conflict about it. It's great. Everybody has a fabulous time. And I just thought that was incredibly sweet.
What I love, there was a line in this episode that I think I'm going to trot out as my example of one of the things that Ted Lasso does well, which is, and I've said it before, I think it does a great job of dealing with social issues without virtue signaling. So its characters have a wide variety of opinions about things, but they're respectful of each other.
Yeah.
So when Higgins asks the Nigerian player, what does Christmas mean to you? And he's like, colonization. It's not like, and you should feel guilty. And it's not an awkward situation like, ooh, which is what it would be if it was on Twitter, right? Instead, he's like, but I'm happy to celebrate it with you because it's your thing. And that's why I'm here. I'm here because of you, not because of Christmas. And I loved that because, as much as I personally do love Christmas, I loved that is kind of the spirit of it, which is like, hey, it's not my thing, but I can still enjoy it with you because of you, not because of it. And I think that's a great example of how Ted Lasso handles that sort of thing really well.
Yeah. What did you think about the Rebecca and Ted story?
it was probably the one that ties into the overarching seasonal story most
Right.
because it's about Ted missing his wife and family and being depressed, and he's just going to sit there and drink scotch and watch It's a Wonderful Life, and then Rebecca saves him from that. It doesn't really progress that story, but it does identify that, like, oh yeah, no, he's in the throes of a deep depression over this, and Rebecca kept him out of it for a day, which is great. Um,
And I
but
think shows a lot of growth for Rebecca, right? Like there's no
certainly,
question
yeah.
that she wants this team to succeed with Ted now, and that she almost magically kind of knew he was in that
Well,
funk.
and he throws that line of like, what were you doing at this time here? You're planning to F me over, which is what she was doing at this time last year, right?
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
And yet it wasn't like super hard feelings about it. Also, not gonna let it go. Not gonna be like, oh, it's don't even worry about it. It's like, yeah, that happened. We're past it, but it happened.
yeah.
Uh, I honestly like the Roy Keeley and the niece the best. Just that idea of like we're gonna knock on posh people's door. It's silly. It's
It
the
is.
definition of silly.
Yeah.
But I'm like they committed to it. They're like, fine, we're gonna knock on doors. We're gonna have everyone go like, hey, are you
Are
Roy
you
Kent?
forget?
Which it's like, oh, that's why he thinks he can get away with it because he's Roy Kent, right? And so
And he
people will just be
does.
like, yeah, we'll
Yeah.
be like, oh, it's Roy Kent. That's amazing. And they have the thing about pooping in your pants on the bus, and they're like, maybe we should not do that. Like, cool with that. That was a great exchange. And then, you know, I don't know. I'm a Well Actually fan. I'm soppy. I like that movie. So when they did the little Well Actually tribute with the cards, I was like, oh, that's cute. I liked it. I liked it.
Yeah, I liked that story, if only because I feel like it is the most complete story. It's the most beginning,
Hmm.
middle, and end of everything.
Yeah, yeah.
The Ted and Rebecca stuff is fun. You know, he takes her out. They children's heart. They spend the day together, and that's kind of it. The Higgins stuff kind of just escalates, but doesn't really have a payoff necessarily.
The payoff is the surfboard. It's not much of a payoff, but
Yeah.
it's like, how are we possibly going to have everyone sit? Yeah, yeah,
And so, yeah, that's such a cute idea of like, yeah, let's just knock on doors. We'll find a dentist. And of course they
yeah.
find it on, like, it's great. It's,
No, you're right. It's big. In fact, the only time my personal schmaltz meter started to lift was when they have Rebecca decide not to go to Elton John's in order to go busking and sing. And I was like, they just did that because they wanted a chance to have her sing again because she's a really good singer.
yeah,
And then
she
I
is.
read that they only did that because they wanted her to sing again because she's a really good singer. I'm like, all right, well, fair play then.
Yeah.
Okay, she is a really good singer.
This would
Fine.
be the one time to do it. So let's,
Yeah.
uh,
Uh, any other thoughts on Ted Lasso, Carol of the Bells?
no, I think it holds up very well in the pantheon of holiday episodes. I do not want to watch. Thank you.
All right, let's talk about what if the premiere episode, Captain Carter. What if you watched it and you're listening to Spoiler Time, you probably already know it's alternate universe. It's the Watcher telling you the stories of the alternate universes where things go differently. And in this case, the story is the super soldier serum gets injected into Captain Carter, not into Stephen Rogers. Stephen Rogers is still around, still voiced by Chris Evans, but he's still the skinny kid from Brooklyn from the beginning of the original Captain America movie. He never gets to become the strong super soldier. Agent Peggy Carter becomes the strong super soldier. And then the story goes from there with her, not being allowed in the room or only being allowed in the room because she has the serum and being upset because she has the serum, but she's allowed to finally go on a mission and save the day in World War II. And then she also gets lost in the ice, just different ice.
Uh, I my feeling after watching this, having not watched the first Avenger, is probably don't need to watch that movie anymore. I feel like I probably got most
Oh,
of the
no,
strokes of
it's
that.
no, I mean, you did get the broadest strokes, but it's really a different movie.
Okay.
It's all about Bucky and their relationship and building up the fact that that's yes, like it's the bedrock for Captain America's character and they call back to it all the time. Whereas this is just the broad strokes.
Mm-mm.
If anything, that's my criticism of this is like I was kind of bored after I saw the origin story. I was like, "Ooh, how does Peggy become Captain Carter instead of Steve Rogers?" And then once that happened, I was like, okay, what are we going to do with the rest of this episode? And it felt a little on rails because, like you say, it's the broadest strokes of the first Avenger.
Yeah, I do agree that the origin story part of this is the strongest bit. I think once we get into the Marvel thing of, hey, we need to punch some guys and have some explosions happen, they do it well. That's what they
Yeah,
do,
sure.
and we kind of get the end of that. I think this is fine. I like this idea that we're telling these little stories and they can be one-offs. Like, I don't have to suddenly start thinking about the Captain Carter version of the MCU. It's just these are nice what if scenarios, and I dug it. I also really dug the animation style. I was not quite sure if I was gonna like. I don't always love 3D animated stuff like this, but I thought it looked really well and it worked. What did you think?
Yeah, I think this is a very comic book style, and it looks very comic booky, and because this is based on the What If comic series, it made sense to me. I'm not a huge animation nerd, so I almost don't feel qualified to judge it, but it looked good to me. I enjoyed it. I thought it looked great.
Yeah, I like that they did not try to do the what you'll see in some, especially 3D animated shows, which is fake low frame rate animation. I think
Uh-huh.
that's always so visible, very very obvious, and this feels like nope, there's not even an issue. We're on the same page about what that, and then everyone has different takes on it, I'm sure, but I thought it was it was a really good job.
By the way, I did misspeak. The one person who isn't voiced by the original actor is Steve Rogers. Josh Keaton does the voice of Steve Rogers. Haley Atwell, Peggy Carter. Samuel Jackson is Nick Fury. We get a brief appearance by Jeremy Renner as Clint Barton in here as well. So yeah, that I guess was the other part is when she wakes up in the future.
Yeah,
When we get that, which you don't really get in the first Avenger, I thought that was great. I was like, oh, okay, so we're gonna get to see her out of time and realize that Steve is either old or dead, and they never got their dance, and that whole situation with Peggy and Steve is now flip flopped.
I do you think that that is setting this show up, say, in a second season to do follow-up episodes? Because you could do
I
it. You could say, "Here's Steve as an old man," and what if Captain Carter were the first Avenger Part Two?
Yeah, I think they absolutely could go there. I don't know the comic book series, so people who do may be sitting here going, "Well, if they do what they did in the comic book series, it'll be this answer to your question." But I got the sense that we might see these stories intertwine even within this season.
Hmm.
That some of these each episode might not be an entirely separate universe. Like the next episode is going to be T'Challa gets picked up by Yondu, not Peter Quill, and T'Challa becomes Star Lord. I cannot wait
Ooh.
to see that. Uh, but I'm like, is there going to be a nod, or are we gonna? Is it going to be farther down the road? Is episode 4 going to have a little Captain Carter appearance? I do kind of expect some of these different takes to show up in each other's stories.
Because I almost wonder, you know, they have the framing device, the beginning and the end of the Watcher, right? I am your guide to the universe. I do not interfere. I only show you, which is cool. I think that's a fine way to do it. And I also am just now like thinking of like, well, you can still do all of that, and the Watcher can say, here, let's go back and see what Captain Carter's up to. I guess that's fine. I guess that's fine.
Everyone in the chat room is screaming at us that Feige said she's going to be in every season. She's going to be in season 2.
Well,
Bryce, Tom, gosh, don't you listen to every word Feige says when you're doing a plot summary?
of course.
Sorry. Yeah. So apparently, yes, she'll be in another season.
That's that's interesting, I guess. Someone's letting us know in the comics he does interfere. He always interferes, and I kind of wish not. I kind of like the idea of here's a Marvel show, and it is purely an anthology. It is just concepts. Here are one-off ideas, and we're not trying to show you that there's a multiverse. We're not trying to make things tie together. Because at some point, if you can't feel like this is an air gap box, then it's like, great. Now I got to think about Captain Carter and when are they going to work her into a movie, pull her from another? Like that's all we're dealing with now with Marvel is multiverses. So, gosh, I I hope that doesn't happen, but I think it will. Only
Oh, yeah, it's
because,
gonna happen.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I guess you can do worse than that.
Why would they be? I think I'm stealing your take here, G. James B. But why would the Watcher be telling us these stories, if not to interfere?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the biggest tip off is that it's so explicit at the beginning and end of this episode.
Right.
I only watch and do not
Yeah.
interfere.
I think you protest too much, Jeffrey Wright. Yeah. Because you could just, if it was just going to be a series of standalone what ifs, you wouldn't need the Watcher, right?
Right.
You could just, or you could have it be like way like, there are like just an impartial announcer. There are many universes with many stories. Here is one of them, right? Instead, they're like, "Hi, I'm the Watcher. By the way, just watch, okay? If you were thinking anything else, that's why I'm called the Watcher because I watch. All right, don't even think I'm going to interfere. Are you kidding me? I would never do that."
Right.
Yeah.
Ha.
All right. That is What If, episode 1, season 1. Let's talk about Star Trek Lower Decks. Return to season 2, episode 1, Strange Energies. And the cool thing about this is, even though we get Boimler, who is on another ship as of the end of season 1, he's only a hologram in Tawny Newsom's training video, Ensign Mariner's training hologram. And we never actually see the real Boimler until
The
the
very end.
very end.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying. While we're talking about this, they're definitely trying to set him up as not a good fit on Riker's ship, right?
Right.
And so I think that's gonna be how they close the loop on bringing everybody back together. I mean, it would be cool to like see next episode. Next episode's all about Boimler and how he kind of is a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah, that's my guess, is that we had the here's what's up on the Cerritos these days. We had the resolution quickly of Ensign Mariner and her mom getting along
Mhm.
over the course of this episode, and so next episode, my guess is we'll see what Boimler's life is like, and maybe we get a quick peek at the Cerritos crew in a similar way. I don't know that it's going to be a holodeck, but a similar way. And then at the end of that episode, we check in back on the Cerritos. And I wouldn't be shocked if episode 3 or episode 4, Boimler's back on the Cerritos again.
Mm. What did you think about our conflict of Ransom getting the strange energies and turned into a god for like 5 minutes?
It was funny. It was funny. I don't know if it's funnier because I know the Gary Mitchell, the original series episode that they're poking fun at. But
it certainly explains why they kind of brush away the answer of, "Oh, I just hit him in the nuts enough times and he disappears."
Yeah, I mean, it was dumb funny, but it's the kind. Yeah, I was a little annoyed by Ransom, but I was supposed to be. So yeah, I was good with that. And I also really enjoyed the B story with Ensign Rutherford and Tendi, who's jealous of Rutherford and therefore is trying to diagnose him with some kind of virus, and then at the end just admits it, like, yeah, no, you don't have that thing. I just missed you.
Yeah, which is very sweet and is kind of another sort of closing the loop on like, hey, remember when we rebooted him at the end of last season? Let's just let's make him hate pears again, and let's
bring that back around.
Yeah.
No, I probably not my favorite Lower Decks episode, but a quite enjoyable one. And the only if they do what I'm saying next week, the only thing I'll hate is not seeing a lot of Mariner, because Mariner's just, I mean, you put Ensign Mariner on screen and I'm fine. I'm like, yeah, do you tell, I don't know, make Ransom blow up like a clown head. I don't care, as long as Mariner's there. She's great.
And I like that they are setting up. They even kind of wear it on its sleeve at the end of the episode. They're setting up more conflicts and stories with her and her mother. like to the point where they're like, yeah, we should do stories together sometimes. They should have scripts where the two of us talk about this openly, and it's not like this whole secret thing, which I think is a fun shifting dynamic, and will be something fun for Boimler to come back into, of like, oh, you're like, I think that's a great 1-2 punch kind of being set up.
Yeah, it's very self-aware. Like, we know that you know that we know, so let's just not all pretend. Like, yeah. A lovely reintroduction to the Cerritos. So I was glad to be back aboard. How about you?
Yeah, I had a good time watching it. I had the only, I guess, thing I can damn it with is I watched it over the weekend. I entirely watched it beginning to end, and this morning I woke up and thought, oh, I need to find time to watch Lower Decks. I haven't watched it yet. And so I would not explicitly call it forgetful, but I will say objectively I forgot that I watched it.
I kind of get what you're talking about. It's a lot of times I watch Lower Decks and I'm laughing about it a little bit later.
Yeah.
There wasn't a particular thing in this one where I was where that was happening, but
I think they're transitioning back into the show. We got a new season. We got to kind of got to figure out where everybody's at. I think that's fine. You need some of that.
All right, folks. That is Star Trek Lower Decks 201. Next week, we will be doing What If 102. If you're like, wait, what happened to Rick and Morty? Well, Rick and Morty is off until September 6th. So we're doing some what ifs in the meantime. We'll also be doing Ted Lasso episode 4 and Lower Decks episode 2. I'm sorry, Ted Lasso episode 5 and Lower Decks episode 2. So be prepared to get spoiled next time. You get these episodes a little earlier too. If you're a patron, patreon.com/cordkillers. We will spoil you again next time.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.